So if you have ever been scammed or hacked, this is a video that you should watch. Welcome to the Melbourne Content Studio. I'm your host, Vic Walker, and each episode I speak to business owners and creatives about all things marketing and content creation to get you inspired and to grow. So let's dive in. I've got Carolynne here, and we're going to be interviewing her on cybersecurity for small businesses. So what is the most important thing that you think that small businesses should know about cybersecurity?
One of the most important things to start off with is learning about cybersecurity is not as scary as many small business owners think it is. Mm-hmm. A lot of them think that it's a technology issue when 95% of the attacks on a small business are actually attacking the people.
Yes.
So that is a big takeaway.
Yes.
That I hope people...
Yeah, well, I guess as a small business owner and being a creative business owner as well, it's like not something we want to deal with. You kind of put it in the too hard basket all the time, isn't it? Until you cross that bridge and you get scammed and you start panicking. So I guess prevention is better than cure. That's right. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. And it's something that we promote a lot with Cyber Wardens is if you are just starting your business, for example, you're in the perfect stage to build cyber safety culture in your business. If you're already running one, it's not too late because with our free cyber safety training, you can learn it and your teams can learn it and you're speaking the same language about the basics of cybersecurity. Yeah. And we've learned that any small business that is talking about cyber safety and taking practical steps on a regular basis is more robust and less likely to suffer from an attack or can respond quicker.
What are your first few things that you learn as an intro to cybersecurity?
Yeah, great question. We've got the Foundations course. We offer it as a webinar or as an online self-paced course. And one of the important things we teach is what the landscape looks like, why small businesses actually are a target.
Yeah. And why are small businesses a target?
Often because the small business doesn't have the same resources in IT as a large company.
Right.
And so cyber criminals actually think they've got less defence. The little fella is a softer target.
Yeah, of course.
And so they'll attack.
They're more vulnerable, aren't they?
They are.
So what kind of attacks? Can you give me some examples of some attacks?
I can give examples of attacks. And in our foundation course, the 7 red flags that you learn about there are the attacks that come in through your inbox, your email.
Right, yes.
So
when you click on those links, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And so common attacks that come through the inbox without even having to crack your password, by the way, is sending you an urgent invoice that is fake. Or an invoice from your supplier that is also a fake invoice.
Yes. Always check the email where it comes from.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've recently had that done to me on Facebook. So someone emailed me about a breach of some music rights, like some sound rights on one of my videos, and I stupidly clicked on it. Yes. And I'm usually pride myself as being quite smart, quite savvy, but this one time, they just get you when you're tired. I was end of the day, something similar had happened just previously, and always happens at that most vulnerable period.
You're absolutely right, Vic. What the cyber criminals are doing with that kind of phishing attack, because that's a perfect example of a phishing attack, is they're playing on your emotions so that you're making an emotional decision rather than a logical one.
Yes.
And oftentimes that type of phishing attack is actually telling you that there's a terrible consequence if you don't do something right now.
Yes.
And so
you'll get fined $100,000 for copyright. That's what I got.
Yeah, perfect example.
Yeah. I mean, somehow they know what is going on with your life. Like my daughter, and this is not just for small businesses, my daughter had a personal attack. Like she was booking flights and she had a text saying that she didn't put the correct date for her birthday and something couldn't go through. And, because she was booking flights to go on a holiday recently and she was busy at work and she panicked a bit, so she clicked on the link. She lost a bit of money, that she couldn't get back. She didn't have a credit card. So when you have a credit card, you can always dispute on the credit card.
Yes.
But because it went straight from her direct debit, she didn't get the money back.
Yeah. And the word panic is what I've tuned in on.
Yes.
Because again, that's what the cyber criminals are relying on. Emotions like panic, fear, anxiety, embarrassment, urgency.
Yes.
And so the first thing we say at Cyber Wardens when you're going through your inbox is slow down and always take a beat before you actually just acknowledge, this is a bit scary.
Yeah.
What should I do?
Yeah.
And your first answer is slow down and read everything
Yes.
to make sure it's a genuine piece of communication. And things that you can look at are what's the email address,
That's
which
right.
you mentioned. But you can also look at, does it align with, so say it was that organisation your daughter dealt with, does it look the same as previous communication from that? And with AI, that's getting harder.
Well, also because, you don't book flights very often. It's not like you get communication through that very often.
We had a similar thing where a colleague at work said to me, I've received an invoice or an offer from this organisation. It looks good. And I took a look at it and I thought, it does look like a good offer, because sometimes it's a positive offer that might get you to follow a link, for example. It doesn't look quite right. And then I figured out, it never comes from the customer team it always comes from a specific individual.
Right.
So I went back through previous emails and found it didn't quite match up. And so again, that's like slow down and check, and you can save yourself some trouble.
But it's getting, like you said, it's getting so smart. I've had lots of emails before where it does look a bit dodgy, the English is not right or something's not quite right, but now with AI they've managed to smooth out all those bumps. When we were purchasing a house, I was speaking to my bank manager and he says that they can actually intercept emails. Like they can get an email, let's say you need to put a deposit down, which is a really big sum. They can intercept that email, change it, and change the bank number so that you deposit into another bank number. So very clever.
It is very clever. And that's another one that comes through is, it looks like it's from a known supplier, and they've said, they've also included, please note our banking details have changed. Well, that's stop now. Because it's highly likely it's a scam. And what you want to do is get on the phone,
call them
and
first.
verify.
Well, what about all these voice, AI voice generation too?
They only need about 15 seconds of your voice to be able to
so you can get on the phone, your supplier could call you and it sounds like them, but it's not them.
That's right. And so you would always want to say, I'll come back to you, and then use your existing contact information, none of the contact information that they have sent by email or by text, and use your existing contact information to confirm, am I talking to an imposter or am I talking to the real deal?
Or I'll call you back on their number that you've got on your phone. But isn't it exhausting? Like you have to double check, you have to be on your guard all the time.
You do. You need to talk to your team about being on guard. I like to encourage people to pay attention to the peaks and troughs of when this activity is happening as well. So right now is a really busy time, end of financial year. That is when they try and slip through the fake invoices or other phishing attacks or even smishing.
Smishing?
Yeah, it's like phishing, but it's a text message on your phone.
Right,
And so they all tend to peak at times like the end of financial year. So I would suggest, if you have a team of employees, even in your own calendar, to say, in the next few weeks there's going to be a spike in this type of scam, so let's talk about it and let's refresh ourselves on what the red flags are going to be. So dive into Cyber Wardens, refresh yourself in our free courses.
Wow, free courses, that's great.
Yes, it's funded by the Australian Government.
That's great.
It's free.
I'll put the link on the show notes.
Thank you.
How long does it take one to do the course?
It depends on the course. So the foundations with the 7 red flags That takes about 10 minutes or 15 minutes if you like to replay things. We offer that as an online course, as an on-demand e-webinar, or as hosted webinars. The online course level 1, which goes into other topics like how to use multi-factor authentication, that'll take you about 40 to 45 minutes. You also get a reflections notebook so that you can actually start building out what actions do I need to take in my business, starting straight away from after you do course level 1.
Yeah.
And then on trend, AI safety for small business, we just launched that in May, and that again takes about 35 to 40 minutes to learn about AI safety in small business, because we believe using AI is an opportunity for small businesses.
Yes.
Don't ignore it, but the things you can do to be safe in how you adopt it.
Of course. I mean, anything you put out there gets recorded. Any information you provide about your business, that's how its intelligence is learned.
Yes, layer upon layer.
Yeah, so anything you put out there, data is gathered from that AI company that you have used. Yeah.
ChatGPT, for example, is a really exciting thing to add efficiencies to a business. I know it's not the only one of that kind.
Yeah.
But before you start using it, you want to actually understand what are the policies I need to put in place in my business to protect my intellectual property,
for sure.
my business data and my customer data. Because you're right, all that information is going into a massive database, and it will get copied from each version of ChatGPT as it goes.
Yeah, of course.
So you want to work out how to set it up so that it's a closed off box, or say these are the only things you can use ChatGPT for. Yeah. And talk to an IT expert if you have concerns about how do I do that safely.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? On one side, it's really useful because you're trying to teach it about your business so that it can help you. But then while you're doing that, you're also feeding information to it about your business. Even with content creators using CapCut, which is an editing program, I heard also that all the movies you've loaded on CapCut, they have the rights to use that and reuse that without your consent or without your crediting you even.
That's right. Before you use any apps or any AI tools, you really need to look at what are the data collection and data sharing policies, because potentially they're using it across their own products and services, but they might also be on selling them to third parties.
Of course. I heard this from a lawyer. Every time you use your rewards card at Woolworths, that data goes into the insurance company. Insurance companies buy that data so they can determine what level of health insurance you're rated at.
Interesting use of data for secondary purposes.
Yeah, data all gets sold.
That's why cyber criminals are trying to get the data that you have. It's why they like to attack the email, your inbox. Honestly, the inbox is one of the first things you need to secure for your business, because it opens the way to secondary attacks if you're not looking at and protecting your inbox.
Right. How do you protect your inbox?
Usually multi-factor authentication. So if people don't like that jargon, it's the same as you go home, you use the lock and you use the deadlock.
Yeah, so it's like you send an SMS to your phone and you have to put in your PIN, but do you have to do that every time you use your email?
It depends on how often you log out. So some people may never log out of their email. But the thing is, if someone tries to hack into your email, then they will hit that second wall of, I need to have that code.
Of course,
requested by multi-factor authentication.
Yes. And you get that if you're trying to log into Shopify or Facebook or iCloud or your bank. Yes, exactly.
And the other way is to make sure you have a unique password for your email account. Yes. You don't want to open your email account and share that password around with anyone else.
It gets hard, doesn't it? Just remembering all these passwords. I'm not getting any younger.
I know. You know how you can have just one password, Vic?
How?
Use a password manager.
Right, yes, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So password managers are really good because they will help you create unique passwords for every app or system that you use. And they are harder to break. And you only need to remember the one password for your password manager.
Okay.
And
is that an app, is it?
It's an app. Yep. There's quite a few different brands of password managers out there. And we use them ourselves in the Cyber Wardens team.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just remember one
Wow.
password. You can
Yeah.
set it up for multi-factor authentication. So it's like a vault. It's
Yeah.
very hard to break into.
Small businesses are not the only ones that are getting hacked. I heard Qantas just got hacked as well.
Looks like someone impersonated an employee
Wow.
and tricked another Qantas employee in Manila to share a
Clever.
password.
Wow.
And so this takes us back to, it's not
Don't
this
share your
Hollywood
password.
style, you know, dun, dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun,
yeah, yeah.
how are we going to crack in? It's, I could trick you.
Yeah.
It's tricking humans.
One of my friend's son, he just started a job. Eyes and bushy tail, and he just wanted to impress his new boss. I think like week 1, he gets a text from supposedly his boss saying, I need you to go out and get 8 Apple gift cards for the end of financial year gifts for the staff. He was on his lunch breaks and they said, oh, we'll reimburse you for it.
Right.
He just did it without even any questions. It's just a bit strange, but he's young, he's new, and he wanted to impress his boss, so he did.
Yeah.
They said, oh, then send this code to this number. Luckily enough, he sort of smartened up and thought, this is a bit strange.
Yeah.
So he sent the original email to his boss. Just turns out that his boss didn't send it at all, so it was a scam.
I like that he paused and
Yes.
thought about it because his experience is a common one where it's either a person in authority or an organisation that's quite authoritative, and that people automatically go to that zone of, I really must do what I'm being asked to do.
Yes.
And they might not check with themselves or a colleague.
Yeah.
They might not make that verification phone
Yeah,
call.
yeah.
Is this really what you want done?
It always happens when you're in a rush.
Small business
and,
rush.
I get it from like an Australia Post or Alibaba or something like that, where we've ordered something and they said, oh, your order is stuck here because you didn't enter in your address properly, something like that. So then you click on that link.
I had that last week.
Yeah, because you did order something.
Yeah.
And you want it to come quickly. Yes.
Parcel deliveries.
Yes.
That's a big one for small business,
Yeah.
or anyone really, but it's a typical way
Yes.
of trying to attack a small business because
Yes.
we've got so many parcels
Coming
in and going out.
Yeah, especially as if you need it as well, all the inventories that you need and you're waiting for. Again, you panic and you're in a rush and you want to get things done. And small business owners have to wear different hats, and we don't have enough time of the day to do everything.
We have case studies of business owners that have experienced a hack and talk to us to the impact and the response and the time it took them to actually recover.
Oh, yes, of course.
One of them was Amy Mills, a very successful business owner. People might remember her from Shark Tank. And she, on the launch of her business, her social media was taken over. And the criminal who did it was posting really violent videos.
Yes, I did hear about
You heard
this.
about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it ruined her reputation.
It did. She had to do a lot of work. Like, she's in a great position now, but she
Yeah.
had to do a lot of work to
Yeah.
recover from that. You need to ask yourself when you're setting up your business, how do I keep the personal and the business separate? And so the tip that I would have for anyone today who hasn't done this is platforms like Meta and TikTok and LinkedIn, they have ways for you to separate the personal from the business. Like, for example, Meta has that business manager.
Yes.
Yes. And so, yes, you need to set up with your personal, but then you can split out and use your business emails.
In Facebook, you have to have a personal account.
You do.
Before you can set up a business account or a business page. So I don't think you can set up a business in isolation of your personal account. And a lot of the Facebook groups won't let businesses join the groups. They only let your personal account join the group.
Interesting, isn't it? Their Facebook groups need a bit of education about the vulnerability that creates, because really you need to be able to separate from the personal and be having communications coming not to your personal Gmail or Yahoo accounts, but to a set up business email account. And so that you can also manage your socials, controlling who is the main administrator and who can add content and build those controls in. So that would be the things to learn more about. How do you build those access controls into what people can do on your social media?
On Instagram and TikTok, you can just set up different isolated accounts.
Yeah.
And then you can swap between the accounts quite easily. Whereas I find on Facebook it's a little bit
Meta's clunky.
Yeah. The other secondary problem with getting hacked is not just using the money. When I got hacked in my Facebook account, overnight $1,200 got spent on ads. Facebook did catch it really, really quickly. After the third ad, they stopped the payment really quickly.
That was so lucky.
Yeah.
The example I was just talking about was $10,000
Yes.
of her advertising.
Oh, right. Yes, that's
account
right.
got run through.
I disputed with Facebook and they refunded my money straight away, like no question asked. But the problem was they paused my ad account, which means my business flatlined. There were no ads running for my account. The sales just dropped because I relied a lot on that ad.
And the other thing, Ian Tran, podiatrist, he's another case study, and his social presence got attacked twice. And it ended up taking him 3 years for full recovery because you also have to rebuild your follower base.
Oh, yes. But even the ad account, you have to rebuild the testing, the algorithm up again. So it could be a big hurdle for a small business.
I know.
Yeah.
And so that circles back to why does a small business need to care about cybersecurity? It's because so many small businesses are actually starting up online and so dependent on their online presence.
It is, yeah.
No Daddy Australia was saying that 60% of women are starting up online only. If you're going to start up your business and you know you're going to have a serious dependence on social platforms, you really need to look at that cybersecurity aspect.
Cybersecurity,
and the
backup
response
plans.
and recovery.
Yes, that's right. So if you lose your main account and you've built it up to like 1 million followers, starting again, it's really hard. I work with a lot of young women and I coach them to build their own personal brand. So I've got my own personal brand as well. When you're on TikTok, you've got to just give a lot of your personality and your personal lives, you know, because you're doing a lot of daily vlogs or you're just doing a lot of content. That is quite scary, isn't it? Because any strangers can know you.
And they probably think they know you intimately too. But it also increases the vulnerability towards getting a cyber attack. One thing that we've learned is that people who have a high profile or people who have a role in a high profile organisation that might have a lot of sensitive information will actually get targeted and profiled by a cyber criminal. And in the profiling, it's using all that personal information that you're sharing so that they can more easily break the passwords or impersonate you using a phishing attack. So earlier you mentioned the boss getting in touch with your son. Think about someone could get in touch with you impersonating a high profile person that you deal with because they've learned enough about them to be the imposter of that person. So there's two ways that creating a high profile personal brand can open you up to attack.
Of course it
and
is.
that's exposing enough information for you.
So how would you protect yourself from that then?
Again, it's following all those safe and secure tips so that you have unique passwords. Share less. Don't use things like Fluffy the dog's name in your password or your favourite movie.
Or show the street in front of your house.
Show the street in front of your house. Anything that might betray too much information about you that can then be used to build that profile for the cyber criminal to use.
You're also exposed to stalkers and personal attack as well.
Online is increasingly being used for those sorts of attacks as well. Things like doxing, where they share too much of your personal information online, or they start stalking you online, which becomes easier if you have quite a broad online presence. That's, different levels of security needed for that. But then taking it back to basics, if you're talking a lot about your favourite beach spot or favourite products or anything like that, a criminal will be going, are they using that in any passwords for anything that they use?
Yes, true. And your dog's name. Your
family
birthday. A lot of the girls who have their personal brand really overshare their personal details.
Yes.
Because that gets you followers.
It does. The personal brand business is the kind of business you're going into. Before you actually go live, you need to really consider the cybersecurity basics and setup that you're going to need just for that extra protection.
So much to think about.
There's a lot to think about. Start with the basics, because asking Cyber Wardens wants anyone to be as overwhelmed with the idea of cybersecurity.
Yeah.
So we reel it back to
Basics.
What's simple? What can you be doing right now? And then build it up where you need to go. And eventually you probably will reach a point, depending on the type of business you're running, where you will need to engage an IT expert.
Yeah.
And it might be because you want to venture into AI in some way, or it might be you have something more complex. But start simple rather than not starting at all. Good place to wrap up.
That's a good place to wrap up.
Encourage people to enrol to a Cyber Wardens program. Again, it is supported by the Australian Government, brought to you by COSBOA, the Council of Small Business Organisations of Australia, and proudly sponsored by Telstra and CommBank.
So I work with a lot of young women and I coach them to build their own personal brand. So I've got my own personal brand as well. When you're on TikTok, you've got to just give a lot of your personality and your personal lives, you know, because you're doing a lot of daily vlogs or you're just doing a lot of content.
Yeah.
So that is quite scary, isn't it? Because any strangers can know you.
And they probably think they know you intimately too. But it also increases the vulnerability towards getting a cyber attack. Because one thing that we've learned is that people who have a high profile or people who have a role in a high profile organisation that might have a lot of sensitive information will actually get targeted and profiled by a cyber criminal. And in the profiling, it's using all that personal information that you're sharing so that they can more easily break the passwords or impersonate you using a phishing attack. So earlier you mentioned the boss getting in touch with your son. Think about someone could get in touch with you impersonating a high profile person that you deal with because they've learned enough about them to be the imposter of that person. So there's two ways that creating a high profile personal brand can open you up to attack.
Of course
and that's exposing enough information for you.
So how would you protect yourself from that then?
Again, it's following all the safe and secure tips so that you have unique passwords, share less about and don't use things like Fluffy the dog's name in your password or your favourite movie.
Or show the street in front of your house.
Show the street in front of your house. Anything that might betray too much information about you that can then be used to build that profile for the cyber criminal to use.
And not only like as a tangent, not only for the cyber attacks, you know, you're also exposed to stalkers and personal attacks as well.
Well, online is increasingly being used for those sorts of attacks as well. Things like doxing, where they share too much of your personal information online, or they start stalking you online, which becomes easier if you have that online, quite a broad online presence.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty scary, isn't it?
It can be. So that's different levels of security needed for that. But then taking it back to basics, it's if you're talking a lot about your favourite beach spot or favourite products or anything like that, a criminal will be going, are they using that in any passwords for anything that they use?
Yes,
and
true. And your dog's name,
your
family
member's name, birthdays, all of that.
Yeah, if you're posting a blog about your birthday, that can easily be worked out, isn't it? Because a lot of the personal brand a lot of the girls who have their personal brand really overshare their personal details.
Yes.
You know, because that gets you followers.
It does.
Yep, because people want to know you. You're a celebrity. They want to know everything about you.
Yeah. So if the personal brand business is the kind of business you're going into, before you actually go live, you need to really consider the cybersecurity basics and setup that you're going to need just for that extra protection. Yeah,
and there's lots of, like, the girls experience a lot in their DMs. I mean, or everyone everyone who has a personal brand gets just gets a lot of DMs, and it could come from maybe a brand that reaches out to you that says, hey, I want to work with you, I want to collaborate with you. And you have to always second guess, is this a real brand? Is this a fake? Are they trying to set me up? Is this a scam?
Yes.
But yeah, and not only that, like the other personal DMs, like, you know, the sugar daddies and all that as well, which that's quite common.
The romance scam.
Yeah, the
as
romance
well.
scam and just,
Yeah.
but no, especially the, like the sugar daddy scams, which is really, really like really scary to be aware of, because that's leading into another, not the cyber attack, but it leads into another can of worms. And you've just got to be really careful with that. Yeah.
You do. Yeah. Something to think about when you're setting up personal brands or heading into that influencer territory anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no,